good, brother.
Cool. All right. So I think we're live here. We are here with Stephen from Akkad Holdings. Stephen Shaya, he represents his family office, very, very successful, active investor, and, also involved in the church ecosystem as well. So just excited to kind of learn a little more about you, Stephen. We've met through some really good people, through some common connections. So, why don't we just jump right into it? I know we got limited amount of time, so I want to jam pack all this wisdom very quickly. Tell us a little more about you becoming a physician and building this successful company. Share a little more about your ambitions growing up. You probably weren't expecting this, but just tell me what was going on in your head when you were kind of a young professional, maybe thinking about college, maybe thinking about your professional life, and you decided to become a physician. So tell me, that transition from kind of being a physician to kind of getting into the business.
So first of all, Joel, thank you for having me on today. It's really an honor, and thank you everyone for listening to this. So my family came from Iraq. We're Iraqi Christians, Chaldean specifically, which is a small enclave in the northern part of Iraq. And my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, she had 12 children. When number 12 was in utero, her husband passed away, and she raised all 12 children on her own, which, Joel, I got to tell you, is mind-numbing to me. I have 3 children, and I'm sucking wind half the time. So yeah. 12, I don't know. Someone said 7 takes you to heaven. I don't know, but anyway.
So my dad's 1 out of 8, so he's the oldest out of 8, and I've got 2, and I'm lucky I still have some hair left, so I totally
do. So my grandmother was a midwife. Mm-hmm. She delivered thousands and thousands and thousands of baby in her small little community. They didn't live in a place where they had a hospital close by. She would often go spend a whole night there, deliver babies for folks that didn't have any money or means, and she would barter with them. They would give her a basket of, tomatoes or vegetables, but she got such joy, Joel, such joy in service, and such joy in giving, something I never forgot. So, and it is very surreal to me that when I meet people that say, "Hey, your grandmother delivered me," it's a little surreal. I've delivered so anyway, that always left a indelible mark on me, just to see how much joy and happiness and richness that she had. She didn't have much materially, but she was rich in family. She was rich in spirit, and she was rich where it really mattered. And so there was a time, something I haven't told a lot of people, where I was looking at becoming a priest. And something very few people know. And I was looking a way to give back, and ended up landing on becoming a physician. And I have personally delivered only 100 babies in my career. And by the way, for the record, I didn't deliver our 3 babies, probably for very, very, very good reason. And I have 3 children, 11, 9, and 7. And so I always thought that my journey was, to serve. How could I get that same joy and richness that my maternal grandmother had, and also my late father. He had an equally big family. He left his Iraq in 1966 under duress, under difficult circumstances. Came here, first day got 4 jobs. Ended up working his way through medical school. He went to University of Michigan. He met my mother during the process, and so we didn't. We grew up in a very, I'd say rich household, but not rich materially. Again, rich like my grandmother, rich in family, rich in spirit, rich where it mattered. And I went on to become a physician. And in 1996, when I graduated, I was doing a fellowship in occupational environmental health. And I had some time on my hands, and my dad had started a medical lab, which he sold in 1996. He was retired for about 5 weeks, and basically my mother, after 5 weeks, said, "You really need to go do something," after he sold. So he couldn't get back in the lab business. So we started this medical supply company. I came on board and started helping them. And, um, it's been an incredible journey. I never thought that I would be running a global company with my family. But God has a plan, and one advice I have for your audience is chase your passion, because when you chase your passion, you find your purpose. And our passion, my family's passion, was to provide affordable and accessible healthcare to as many people globally as we can. And J&B, a lot of people ask me who and what J&B is. We have 18 different business enterprises today. We run the gamut from medical distribution, where we sell everything that goes in a hospital, pharmacy, physician's office, supply equipment, pharmaceuticals, to specialty businesses like EMS, animal health. Our claim to fame is we're one of the largest third-party billers of consumable medical products to the homes in the United States. Diabetic supplies, wound care, ostomy, insulin pumps, continuous glucose monitors. We reach 260 million covered lives via insurance contracts today. We reach 170 million on the pharmacy side. We're licensed in 49 states there. We have a telemedicine, telehealth company. We do virtual visits around the world, mental health, behavioral health, substance abuse, social determinants of health. And we are, we're in 49 states. We're in 20 countries today. It is a family business. I get fired all the time, but that's a whole nother discussion for a different day. But, J&B is really a platform of purpose and possibilities, and making healthcare as affordable, accessible to as many people globally as we can. So that's a little long-winded version of my journey.
No, it's amazing. Looking back, building a business, especially with your family and just taking a company globally. What are some learnings, just reflecting on, maybe the last, handful of years that you kind of are thinking about, as you kind of, you're going for a walk and you're kind of reflecting on some of these memories building this business. What are some of the biggest learnings?
So I think when you find your meaning, when you find your purpose, whatever the world throws at you, and God knows today, Joel, the world, how many crazy, unexpected twists and turns have we seen just in the last several weeks, right? But when you find your meaning, when you find your purpose, you'll be able to weather you'll be able to weather the storm. And just like in anything, whether it's relationships, whether it's a business, whether it's make sure it's something that really is consistent with your meaning, with your purpose, with your DNA. I think the more in tuned you are to that, the higher chances you have to be successful, because inevitably those challenging moments come. And if you don't have that perspective, if you don't have that passion, if you don't have that love for what you're doing and who you're working with, and things will so I think that's the most important thing. Working with my family, kind of realizing at an early stage that our meaning, our purpose was to put the human back into humanity, the care back in healthcare, and use our God-given opportunities to, not only provide access to healthcare, but build bridges across the religious, the political, and socioeconomic divides in our world. I think for us, that's helped us weather a lot of the challenging moments. I tell people I have more scars than stars over 28 years, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But it's been a blessing, and a lot of those challenging moments have really helped set us up for future successes.
Yeah, I think you hit on an important point. I think having faith, whatever religion you are, right? The audience is going to have people that believe in different things or don't believe in different things. But I think if you have some type of faith, and that could even just translate to just having a positive attitude, just faith in yourself, even if it's not in a higher person, or being or entity, But I think just, I think that definitely is what helps people, continue to go on, right? It's like, hey, I believe that I can get through this. And then I think the second piece is having some type of community, right? So you were fortunate. I was also fortunate to have kind of a support system. My dad being out of 1 out of 8. Usually when there's issues, the family gets involved. They kind of try to make things work out. But if you don't have a big family or a family that you get along with, I think just being part of some tribe, right? Like founders have founder communities. I've built kind of this fund manager ecosystem. Fund managers, especially early stage fund managers, they're pretty much founders, right? They're founders in the capital business. And, it's just a tough grind right now, especially in this market, to try to close capital. So when all those things are at a loss, all you have is really your faith in your community and your support system.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think that's well said. And to use a biblical, in Proverbs of the Bible, it says iron sharpens iron. And I think, finding those folks that you can learn from, that you can grow from, that you're energized by being around. Like Joel, when you and I met, it was like, I just met you, but I feel like I've known you all my life. Like you feel like you connect with people at a much deeper level. For me, it's people that are, have some sort of underlying faith. I'm Catholic, but it could be any faith, and I think people that are cognizant that there's a higher power. And I will say, Joel, one thing I've noticed, we're divine beings on a human journey, but the people that are the most fulfilled, on my journey at least, are the people that are trying to be part of something bigger than themselves, and a lot of times those people, people call them dreamers, a lot of these entrepreneurs that you're referring to, it's a big leap to wherever they're trying to get to. I think Jensen Wang recently with NVIDIA said, if I would have known what I had to go through to get where I am today, I wouldn't have done it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so faith is such a beautiful thing. And a lot of people that know me know I'm a person of quotes. So I have to share a couple here. But so Martin Luther King said, faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. And think about that, in life, not everything's spelled out. I mean, and many times the people that are most successful are not the smartest and most talented. They're the most resilient. And I think faith is an underlying, important thing, at least on our journey.
No, I totally agree. And I think, look, I mean, we bonded because I'm Catholic as well, but like, I'd say, look at what are the underlying principles for many other religions, right? Try to be honest, try to be a good person, treat people how you want to be treated. So I think, just the basic principles of being a human being, right? Kind of like you said, or just trying to be kind to others. I think, things work out somehow, and just having that positive spirit definitely helps you going, especially when there's a tough time. Tell me a little more about like your initiatives at the Vatican. So how did that expand? I guess did your business kind of have some impactful initiatives that kind of supported the Vatican, or how did you kind of break into that industry? And tell us about the first time you met the Pope. How was that interaction? Because I don't know if everybody in my audience knows about that.
So we've had the honor and privilege of meeting Robin Smith, who, by the way, I'll recommend she should get on your podcast. But she has this group that she founded called the Cura Foundation, and she had a health issue many years ago, and she needed stem cells, and there was such a big stigma against stem cells because it's tied into abortion and fetuses. And as a Jewish woman, non-Catholic, went to the Vatican and convinced them that, hey, not all stem cells come from fetuses. There's other ways to get stem cells like adipose tissue, and we need to have an adult conversation. So she convinced the Vatican that we should have these convenings every couple years. And I went to my first one in 2016. And my son Grayson got kissed by Pope Francis.
Mm-hmm.
and he also got kissed by Vice President Biden the same day. So it's
Wow.
kind of the Mount Rushmore for something. I don't know what, but
Yeah.
and my third son Gavin was in utero with my wife, and
Mm-hmm.
so we call him Gavin Francis Shaya, named after Pope Francis. But look, as a Catholic, the Catholic Church has a lot of issues. I don't want to sugarcoat them. There's a lot of challenges with the Catholic Church. But Joel, nobody houses, clothes, feeds, educates, provides more healthcare globally than the Catholic Church. It's not even
Mhm.
close.
Sure.
So I think we've got to look at everything. One of the challenges is in this on our journeys is what lens are you looking things at? So, in the US, for example, a lot of people look at things from a political lens. If you're a conservative leaning person, you're going to look at events a certain way. If you're a liberal leaning person, you're going to look at them another way. But I think we need to step back and realize, that again, we're divine beings on a human journey, and there's good and not so good in every situation, and everything is an opportunity to learn. Now, for me, those lessons are imbued in faith.
Mm-hmm.
They're imbued
Yeah.
in my personal faith journey. For other people, they may look at it differently, which I totally respect. Um, but I think that's something that as a society, we need to develop some perspective and kind of have a little more self-awareness of what lens we're looking at things, because certainly whatever lens you're looking at things could color your perspective. And I think we have to do more to understand, people on the other side's perspective, whether it's politically, whether it's, other dynamics. And I think that's one thing as a servant leader I try to share with the folks that I work with, is that we really need to understand all sides of all dynamics if we're going to be, effective servant leaders.
Yeah, and I think if you can kind of create a win-win where you're creating impact, supporting an institution like the Catholic Church, and also kind of deliver. I really like your quote. They deliver solutions for people, impacting the purpose, and then also paying it forward. It's kind of a win-win across the board. So I love that mantra. Can you share a little more about that mantra and kind of what motivated you to? I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? But what's helped you to kind of put that mantra together?
So there is a Jewish scholar named Maimonides,
Hmm.
and he had a concept he discussed in his teachings, called tzedakah, which is giving, and there was different levels of giving. And the highest level of giving was forming partnerships with people. So you weren't just giving them money or some other treasure, so to speak, but you were helping them get out of dependency. You were making
Hmm.
partnerships, and
Yeah.
so and that was the highest level. And so for us, to give you a couple real life examples, our company J&B has 103 service disabled veterans with disabilities that work for us today in Atlanta, an entity called Bobby Dodd Institute. And 38% of people that leave military service are unemployed. And one of the things that we realized, and this was really my late father's kind of, we talked about total health, the health of the patient, the health of the employee, the health of the communities, and particularly with these underserved type communities. So and another example of that would be that we have in New Mexico a partnership with the Navajo Indians, a group called Strongbow. And so we formed a partnership there to take care of folks. We're providing jobs, we're providing opportunities. But Joel, there's a lot of medical data that shows that underserved, underprivileged populations do better when taken care of by their own. There's a lot
Hmm.
of cultural nuances
Yeah.
that people don't appreciate. And so, I think, as J&B continues to evolve, we've kind of went from a products company kind of B2B to a best in class last mile providing products and services to the homes to more of a population health company. Well, as part of that journey, providing workforce development opportunities where we're kind of training and developing and educating people in their communities to take care of themselves, I think, to take care of their own. I think there's huge opportunities there. And we call it, there's a lot of different names, but, people that have a higher health literacy, the people that know about their health conditions that are more educated do better. And also folks that are taken care of from their own communities, folks do better. And there's actually quite a bit of medical data there.
Yeah, so my aunt is, in an assisted living facility in India, and obviously, being from India, they love the food and kind of the association with kind of people that come from her same community. So, have you started thinking about kind of like assisted living and kind of how that's being hyper localized in some regions as well? So, like the Navajo community, I'm sure they have kind of like processes and infrastructure in place. But like when you think about healthcare becoming more and more expensive, I'm seeing people from where I'm from. I'm from India, right? I'm seeing a lot of people go back to India because there's really high quality facilities there, and they can afford it with their, with whatever their retirement compensation is. And it goes a little further. Obviously, with inflation, everything is getting more expensive. But I thought that's kind of an interesting trend, and there's sometimes even a tourism aspect of it where people that are not natively from India, they're going to India now to kind of get some of those services as well. So that's something that's kind of really interesting to see.
Yeah, and I will say this about India. I'm a huge fan. There's been a huge seismic shift in the healthcare ecosystem. Many of the products that were made in China and Asia. But I think India is the absolute future. I mean, they have the labor, they have they have the skill sets. They're very strong in medicine. To give you an idea, $200 billion is going off patents for pharmaceuticals or drugs, and by 2030, and a lot of these next, the generic versions of, they call them the 503Bs, are going to be made in India. And there's a lot of groups. Walmart is moving more and more of their procurement from China to India. So I see tremendous opportunities in India, and frankly, India doesn't have the geopolitical challenges that China does. And I mean, look, there's challenges when you do business abroad, no matter where you go, but it seems like there's a lot of momentum in India. The folks that I've met there are absolutely world class. I mean, some of these groups, like Reliance Industries, owned by Mukesh Ambani, and a lot of these groups I've met are just absolutely, positively world class. And also a lot of the tech now is coming from India. So I'm very bullish on India. We've also spent a lot of time with a group called API, American Association for Physicians of Indian Descent, and there was a statistic they shared which is absolutely staggering to me. 1/3 of all the patients in the United States are seen by an Indian doctor, one way, shape, or form, or doctor from Indian descent. If you think about that, I mean, it is absolutely. It's mind-boggling to me, and I see continued momentum there.
Yeah. Well, I know we got about 4 minutes left. You and I, we spent some time talking about sectors that we're interested in on the investing side. So maybe you can, give us one or two bullets in terms of, things that you're excited about from the investing front. Obviously, you have a huge foundation and network in the healthcare space, and there's a lot of innovations in AI and, digital health. But just maybe tell me, maybe one or two things that you're excited about as far as just kind of looking at for investing in.
So for my family and I personally, there's a couple areas. Number one, medical infrastructure. And so we kind of see medical infrastructure projects as an opportunity not only to create a business opportunity, but also address some of the challenges of today. So let me give you a real life example. People talk about the Mexican border and immigration, and the one little fact that kind of gets lost in everything is the vast majority of people that are coming from the Mexican border are not Mexican. They're from Guatemala, they're from El Salvador, they're from Honduras. So we're looking at doing some projects in that area, which would create jobs, would create opportunities, and create reasons for them not to immigrate, to the U.S. So that's one. We have a project ongoing in Saudi Arabia right now where we're going to start a project to build IV fluids, and it's not only a fantastic project. Only 22% of the local consumption is made in Saudi, and this will be the first one that has U.S. FDA and Saudi FDA approval. So it'll be the first one in the market like that. But let me tell you, every time we do one of these projects, Joel, it's a bridge across the religious, the political, and socioeconomic divide. I tell you, whenever I travel places, by and large, the people are amazing. And, when you find things like, providing access to affordable, accessible healthcare to people, I mean, it brings us together with people from all different walks of life. And so for us, we're really looking at these medical infrastructure projects. And then the other is you can't overstate the importance that AI and machine learning are going to have moving forward. I'll give you one example where to put a lot of this medical infrastructure. There's a lot of factors that go into it. One of them is climate changes over the next 10 years. One of them is population density. One of them is access to supply chain. So it's multifactorial. So using things like AI, we can make better decisions on not only where to place facilities, but also where to make big investments. So God's calling to us is healthcare, and we're using that, but we're just stewards of the blessings.
Well, Stephen, thank you so much. We learned so much in just a compressed amount of time. You're with your family, so really, it means a lot to me for you to make time for me and the community. Hope you have safe travels, and we'll catch up soon. Thanks for everything. Really appreciate it.
God bless everyone. Thank you, Joel, for having me. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye.